Hey everybody. So wanted to talk to y'all today about a topic that I see come up a lot. Um, and it's kind of twofold. One part is people asking, I'm an introvert. How do I do marketing when I'm an introvert? And the other is more universal to introverts and extroverts, which is if you're feeling drained around putting yourself out there and putting your work out there and your message out there. And I want to start by saying that even though it may seem from my videos that I'm very outgoing, I actually do consider myself more of an introvert in the definition of I get my energy from being by myself. I love being around people, and I love spending time with people, but I gather my energy being by myself. So I get it, and I've been there, and I totally I totally understand it, and and I also understand from the perspective of it can seem like every marketing strategy requires you to be so extroverted and somebody that you're not. And it seems like every really successful business owner or marketer just loves attention and is super outgoing and extroverted. And if that's not you, and if it feels exhausting for you to put yourself out there, number one, you're not alone, but you also need to understand that if you're doing that, it isn't sustainable. It's not going to be sustainable for you unless you change the way you're doing it and change the way you're thinking about it. Because the truth is that you can put yourself out there for a little bit, you can willpower yourself, but usually what's going to happen is that you're going to burn out, and it's going to take you out of momentum. It's going to take you out of that consistent action that's required to get the results that you want. But if you don't share yourself over and over again, you're not going to get the kind of traction that you need either. So there is a third option, okay? So I want to kind of talk to y'all about that today. So there's a couple things. Like I said, I do understand because I do consider myself more of an introvert. And it's not always easy for me to put myself out there and my ideas, especially if they feel any kind of like controversial or particularly personal. But I've learned how to look at it differently. And oh my God, like so much from the time that I started. And like I couldn't have done this in the beginning of my business. And it was nowhere near as comfortable as it is for me today and right now. And I've also learned how to manage my energy to support the needs that I have, okay? And so I want to share with you how I do it and how I teach my clients to do it. So the very first thing, so there's two parts to this, okay? The very first thing is that you really need to understand the definition of an introvert, okay? And a lot of people, and what the true definition is, okay? And the one that I'm gonna use for this purpose of this video that I'm familiar with is extroverts gain their energy by being around people, and introverts gain their energy by themselves. But a lot of people misuse the word introvert to mean that they feel uncomfortable around people, or that they feel shy, or that they feel insecure around people. And these are two vastly different things. And there's nothing wrong with either of them, by the way. But you have to navigate them differently for the best results. And even extroverts feel uncomfortable, feel insecure around people, and that can drain their energy. All right. So you have to understand that that this is number one, this is not about being an introvert. This is just sort of a misdefinition of introversion. And you have to navigate them differently to best manage your energy to get the results that you want. So I'm actually going to start with the how to navigate discomfort first, because it actually applies to everybody, introverts and extroverts alike. Like this is universal. People, especially when you are sharing something about yourself that is very precious to you, that you are very afraid of rejection about because you really crave and want that approval. So I'm going to talk about that in the second half of this video. I'm going to talk about how to have success as an actual introvert, as somebody who does gain their energy by being by themselves instead of being with people. Okay, so part one, navigating discomfort. Even the most outgoing extroverts, and I know these people personally, and I've worked with them personally, so I know this very intimately. experience discomfort putting themselves out there. Okay. And the more you want to share what is really authentic about you, what is brilliant about you, your most precious gifts, the more likely it's going to be uncomfortable. The more fear of rejections shows up because the stakes are higher. When you share something about yourself where you really badly want people to appreciate that part of yourself as much as you do, when the stakes are really high, the rejection stings so much more. So it becomes much more difficult to want to share that part of you. The more you want that part of you to be validated by other people, the more difficult it is to share over and over and over again. And when you are in a business that you love and trying to sell your passion, this is particularly challenging. All right, it is, I would say it's even more challenging than something that isn't as personal or isn't as meaningful to you. And so if you share yourself and something that's really precious to you, it's gonna drain your energy so much more if the stakes are higher, if you're looking for that approval, if you're wanting it to be valued by other people. If you get even a hint of negative feedback or criticism, it's gonna drain your energy so much more than the parts of yourself where the stakes are lower. So I'll tell you what, when I first discovered that I wanted to be a coach, I felt this really this sense of really unbelievable joy that I had really found my purpose. And it was work that I loved and I wanted to share it. But I also had this other voice in my head that was like, wait a minute, are people really gonna pay me for this? Is this something I could really do? So I was very cautious. I was hopeful, but I was also looking for external validation. And so when I first started sharing with it, when I first started sharing this with people, it was like I was hoping that people would agree that I was good enough. And, they were going to agree that it was possible. It was possible for me. And every time I shared that part of myself with someone new and I didn't know the reaction that I was going to get, it really took a lot of energy. I was bracing for the negative feedback, bracing for the criticism was exhausting. And even a hint of, sounds like it probably won't work, or does that, would completely drain me. And even when people were like, yeah, that's awesome, it's like, okay, but I'm still bracing for the but, I'm still bracing for the doubt. And so it wasn't just uncomfortable to be around people and to share myself with them. It was exhausting. It was truly exhausting, but it was also really critical to building a business. I mean, if you guys didn't know I was a coach, if you guys didn't know my message and, my expertise and my methodology and my philosophy, it would be pretty hard for you to want to sign up and work with me, right? So it's very critical that you do share that. Now, as I gained experience, as I gained skills, as I saw my clients getting incredible results, and I saw what was possible, my anxiety started to ease up, slowly but surely I started to get pieces of my energy back. I wasn't bracing for the rejection. I wasn't bracing for the negative feedback. And so every day I could start sharing more of myself without getting drained. But it didn't happen overnight, and I didn't just try to willpower through it. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I see people making is they just think, oh, just get over it. I'm just gonna keep doing it. I just gotta get over it. And honestly, I never see that work for anybody, and it definitely didn't work for me. The only thing that worked to create sustainable change and sustainable security within myself was deeper work. Deeper mindset work to not just intellectually change my belief, but to make sure that it was an integrated part of who I was. It's the difference between convincing yourself every single day and affirmations every single day and making decisions and taking action from a place of deep self-worth. Instead of making decisions and taking actions to overcompensate for insecurity. And so it's not, if you just try to get over it, it's going to be fleeting. It's not going to last very long. You're not going to be able to do it consistently enough to take consistent enough action to get the results that you want. Or if you do, it's just going to feel terrible. And then it's also going to feel terrible when you have to sustain it. But on the flip side, let me tell you this, the more uncomfortable it is to share, the more rewarding it is when you can do so and you can really build that inner knowing of self-worth. And because the parts of ourselves that trigger the most insecurity, like I said, they tend to have the highest stakes, and they tend to be the parts that we most want to be seen and heard and understood and adored. And so when they are, and when we find that truth within ourselves, when we create that security within ourselves, we can actually share who we are with people. We can actually connect with people authentically. And because we're actually sharing who we are, we can actually be seen. We can actually be heard. We can actually be understood and loved for who we truly are. When we hide those parts of ourselves, we can never feel truly seen. So this is, I mean, listen, like, definitely part of this is a marketing and sales skill issue. And I will tell you that understanding the skills, if I'd known then what I know now about the skills, it would have, that takes a lot of the personal stuff out of it. It takes a lot of like personal rejection stuff out of it, just understanding the right way to do it and the less right way to do it. The, let's say, ineffective way to do it. The effective way to do it and the ineffective way to do it will take a lot of the personal rejection out. Will take a lot of the insecurity out, not just because you know that you're doing it right, but because you're not trying to convince the wrong people of your worth. I could say a lot about that, but I think I have to keep moving on. But just take that in, okay? When you're not trying to convince the wrong people of your worth, it takes a lot of the insecurity away. And that is a skill issue. It is purely a skill issue. So once I had that framework and I wasn't second guessing myself because of the skill, that increased my confidence quite a bit, but it is also an emotional skill to go from intellectual to integration. And really the progression is awareness of when your autopilot reactions are coming from a place of insecurity to, okay, intellectual, like, okay, yes, I should be valued as whatever at the, when I was starting my business as a coach, like I am good enough, right? There's the intellectual. And then there's the transformation and the integration where you start coming from your autopilot is, when you're in intellectual, you're having to convince yourself that you're good enough. When you're when you're in integration and transformation, your autopilot is good enough. And I'll tell you, it's a rewarding place to be. And it's not all or nothing. Like, it's not black and white. It's not like every part of my life I'm now, I come from a place of good enough, but I and deep, knowing in self-worth, but the different parts of myself over time, you can look back and you can see the difference, and you can feel and experience the difference between when you were trying to convince yourself, when you were completely unaware that you were even doing it, and the parts of yourself that there is a knowing about. And so you have to do that emotional work. And a lot of times, you especially, honestly, especially if you're a mindset coach, like, the tools are not, you need outside, you need an outside expert, because your conditioning is going to prevent you from seeing and being aware of where your autopilot is preventing you from coming from a place of self-worth, and when it's coming from a place of insecurity, because you just live on these conditioned assumptions around what the world is. And so it just takes somebody who knows what they're doing, but also somebody who has a different perspective, who can see what you can't see. And then as you keep growing, you keep giving that to your clients. So it is a skill. You want to learn the skill of mindset. And you also need to make sure that you're getting consistent mindset support and coaching as well. But it's extremely rewarding. All right, so now I want to talk about true introversion and how you manage your energy if you gain your energy by being by yourself instead of being with people. Now, this is more about the right business model for you, the right role you want to play, and using your extroverted energy as your competitive advantage. For me, like, doing this video, it doesn't feel like there's no people here with me right now. I mean, I know you guys you're here, but I'm not like physically in the room with you, you know? So to me, this is not the same thing as me going to a networking event. From an introverted place, this is not the same thing as me going to a speaking event. This to me is like, I'm by myself, and I'm sharing, and I'm putting myself out there, and I'm, you know, sharing things. But from an introversion perspective, to me, this is definitely not the same thing as going to a networking event, like an in-person networking event. So this is about the right business model for you. Okay, this is about the role you want to play, using, you know, the marketing model you want to be in, the sales model, the offer model, the number of clients you want. It is structuring your offer to spend more time by yourself, but still being able to deliver amazing value if that's really what's more in alignment with your energy. Like I said, recording a video, writing a blog post is something you're doing by yourself mostly. You can also create a structure where you minimize your time doing marketing and sales, which means you just need to be really skilled at them so you can get better results in less time. And finally, I just want to say, like, being an introvert is not a problem. It is a beautiful gift, okay? And you just have to find the right business model for you that allows you to use your energy to shine. And that's true of extroverts too, okay? You want to find what are the parts about you that are going to make you stand out just because they're you. And how do you find ways to leverage what is natural to you versus trying to reject it or to fight it. Yeah, so I want to hear from you. If you're an introvert, are you struggling to find a way to market in a way that aligns with your natural energy? And if you're an extrovert, you know, or an introvert, if you're either, do you struggle to share yourself authentically? Do you struggle with feeling insecure and feeling uncomfortable with people? And what is it that you think you need to create a marketing model and a sales model that allows you to shine in your natural energy and that allows you to keep putting yourself out there from a place of deep inner self-worth, where you're not constantly sharing and hoping for validation, hoping for approval, and draining your energy through bracing for rejection and draining your energy anytime you do get negative feedback. But I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments kind of where you're at with it. All right, take care. Bye-bye.